5,000 years ago, beneath the same stars we gaze at today, humanity fought its first organized war. Not between tribes, not between clans, but between nations. This is the story of Sumer, where irrigation canals became battlefields, where kings claimed divine right to conquest, and where the very concept of state warfare was born in blood and clay. Welcome to humanity's first empire and its first collapse. In the Fertile Crescent between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, something unprecedented emerged around 4500 BCE, the world's first city-states. Uruk, Lagash, Umma, names that echo through millennia as the birthplaces of writing, mathematics, astronomy, and law. But Sumer gave us something else, too, something darker. The Sumerians didn't just invent civilization, they invented the machinery of organized conflict. They created standing armies, strategic warfare, treaties between nations, and in doing so, they set a template that every empire since has followed. The question isn't whether the Sumerians were advanced, it's whether they were too advanced, too quickly, and what that cost them. Imagine standing on the walls of ancient Lagash, looking across the Mesopotamian plain. The year is 2450 BCE. The sun beats down on ziggurats that pierce the sky like artificial mountains, their mud brick surfaces gleaming with glazed tiles. This is the cradle of civilization, but it's also a pressure cooker. Sumer's success created its own enemy, scarcity. The same irrigation systems that fed millions required constant maintenance, endless water, and expanding territory. City-states that once cooperated now eyed each other's canals, their fields, their temple wealth. Water became more valuable than gold, and borders became worth dying for. The Stele of the Vultures, one of humanity's oldest war monuments, depicts what happened next. Carved in limestone around 2450 BCE, it shows the armies of Lagash trampling the soldiers of Umma beneath their feet, while vultures feast on the fallen. This wasn't a raid. This wasn't a skirmish. This was total war between organized states. King Eonatum of Lagash didn't just defeat Umma, he claimed divine mandate for it. The gods themselves, he inscribed, had granted Lagash the disputed territory. And Umma's survivors were forced to swear oaths written in cuneiform, binding their descendants to Lagash's rule. Sound familiar? It should. This is the prototype for every territorial conflict in human history. For over a century, Lagash and Umma fought over a strip of land called Gu'edena, the edge of paradise. It was approximately 25 kilometers of irrigated farmland. That's it, roughly the size of a small modern suburb. But in Sumer, that land meant survival. The conflict escalated through generations. Treaties were signed, then broken. Rulers rose and fell. The documentary evidence, clay tablets preserved by accident in fires that destroyed the cities themselves, reveals a pattern chillingly modern: arms races, propaganda, economic warfare. One tablet records how Urlama, ruler of Umma, destroyed Lagash's boundary markers and diverted its water supply. Hydrological warfare, cutting off a city's lifeblood without a single sword drawn. Lagash responded with full military mobilization. Their king, Entemena, led phalanxes of infantry armed with spears and shields, supported by four-wheeled war chariots, the ancient world's equivalent of tanks. Archaeological evidence shows these weren't ceremonial. The skeletal remains bear the marks: crushed bones, embedded bronze spearheads, mass graves of young men. But here's what haunts historians. Both sides claimed the same gods authorized their conquest. Ninjirsu, patron deity of Lagash, supposedly commanded the war. But Umma's priests said their god, Shara, demanded the land returned. How do you negotiate peace when both sides claim cosmic authority? You don't. The war continued for 150 years. Eventually, exhaustion opened the door for something new: empire. Around 2334 BCE, a man named Sargon of Akkad watched the Sumerian city-states bleed themselves dry and saw opportunity. He wasn't Sumerian, he was Akkadian from the north, an outsider. And he proposed a radical solution to endless interstate war: eliminate the states. Sargon conquered Sumer city by city, crushing their independence and absorbing them into history's first true empire. The Akkadian Empire stretched from the Persian Gulf to the Mediterranean Sea. For the first time, the Mesopotamian plain had centralized power. One law, one army, one king who claimed to be king of the universe. The interstate wars ended, but at what cost? Sumerian culture, their language, their city identities, their independent temple economies began to fade, absorbed, homogenized. Within generations, Sumerian would cease being a spoken language, surviving only as the Latin of the ancient world, a liturgical fossil. Sargon solved the problem of Sumerian conflict by ending Sumer itself. But empires, as it turns out, are no more stable than city-states. The Akkadian Empire collapsed within 150 years, torn apart by internal rebellion, climate change, a centuries-long drought, and invasions from the Gu'edens, mysterious raiders from the Zagros Mountains. And in the chaos, the cycle began again. New kingdoms, new wars, new empires. The pattern Sumer established would repeat across Babylon, Assyria, Persia, Rome, and every civilization since. So what destroyed Sumer? Was it the wars themselves, the constant drain of resources and young lives? Was it environmental collapse as over-irrigation salted the soil and turned paradise into desert? Was it invasion by peoples who learned Sumerian warfare and turned it against them? Or was it something more fundamental? The realization that civilization, once it reaches a certain complexity, generates conflicts it cannot solve. The Sumerians gave us writing so we could record deaths and treaties. They gave us mathematics to measure fields and grain stores. They gave us astronomy to predict floods and plant cycles. And they gave us war. Organized, ideological, interstate war. Because all of those innovations created something worth fighting over. 5,000 years later, we still live in the world Sumer built. We still fight over borders, resources, and whose god authorized which conquest. We've just upgraded from bronze spears to nuclear arsenals. The Stele of the Vultures still stands in the Louvre, a monument to humanity's first interstate conflict. The vultures it depicts have long since scattered, but the pattern remains. If you want to understand humanity's future in the cosmos, how we'll organize, compete, and potentially destroy ourselves among the stars, start by understanding Sumer, because we've never stopped fighting the same war. Subscribe to Myths of the Cosmos for more stories where ancient history reveals uncomfortable truths about our cosmic destiny. Because the past isn't dead. It's not even past.